Welcome to Big Boy Crypto, home of the BitSquad, the largest and greatest crypto community in all of the interwebs. My name is DC. We come to you Monday through Friday, 5:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about your favorite topics with your favorite guests. Today, no exception. We're going to go ahead and start on the top right. It is the trading female, and she will get you those low-cap gens. Follow her content. She gets in early. Then on the bottom right, we were just lamenting how we didn't get on the Utes list. It is me and Forrest just watching from the shadows, but it's okay. It's okay. Our Magic Eden wallets will recover. Then on the bottom left, we have Gareth Soloway. He is putting out great content, great calls. We're going to go into that. And then on the top left, maybe the crow is going to fly in. I don't know. He's out there scampering around, winging around in the air. I think I see him circling overhead. So he might come in to roost. We'll let you know if he does. But we're going to be talking about Bitcoin. Obviously, a rough weekend. Is it the DXY's fault? We're going to try to figure it out. Also, XLM, Zcash, and Horizon may be securities. And we got some evidence pointing in that direction. We're going to try to suss all that out. And also, we have a AI CEO. What does that mean for the future? Should you be looking out for your job? Are we getting taken over by the robots already? But before we look into those topics, let's look at the crypto market, see where things are heading. Like I said, it's been a little bit of a rough weekend, but the day has been slightly green. We can see Bitcoin up a little less than 1%, Ethereum up almost 4% there. But the main thing I want to focus on here is the price of Bitcoin. Right now, we have it at 20,000. If we look over the weekend, this is going to be the 7-day chart I'm pulling up. And yeah, just look at that dip right there. It just came down close to 21.7, 21.8, and then just a hard fall down below 20K. Now, Gareth, we had talked about, we see Bitcoin going up to the mid-20s and then pulling back down. Did it kind of play out the way you were expecting? And when it does pull back down, when do you expect the pull down to stop?
Well, so number one, I think weeks ago I was on and I said, hey, it's going to go to 25.5, and I was incorrect. It went to 25.3 before it fell back down.
Oh man, if I could take away more points, I want to give you more points so I could take those away. How dare you be so far off? So far off.
But the bottom line is, I mean, this is a market that is just on edge. The Federal Reserve, I know we're going to talk about the dollar soon too, but the Federal Reserve is the one that's controlling that dollar. The more hawkish they talk, which they did on Friday, Jerome Powell, in 8 minutes, he crushed risk assets with his comments about how, interest rates were going to go up as high as they need to save the economy from all the inflation. And the markets just hate that. The market wants a weak dollar. That's good for risk assets. So we saw that big drop and kind of a retest of a level. In fact, let's take a look here. Take a look at this. So look at where we went, though. I mean, it's very poetic. Here over here, we bounced multiple times off this trend line. And this trend line is the 2017 high around 19,500 to 600. And then look at where we went to. And sure enough, again, it pops back up a little bit. Now, the question is, can we get a bigger bounce? And to find that out, what you got to do is you just got to go to your dollar chart. And sure enough, right here, you can see the dollar is right at multi-year highs. It hit it this morning. This morning, Bitcoin was down. And then as soon as the dollar fell back down, this is the daily chart, so you can see it trade back down. That's when Bitcoin caught the bid. If the dollar can start to fall, we got Bitcoin. Maybe it gets to that 25.5 after all. We'll have to watch and see. But it watched the dollar, and by default, it's whatever the Fed is saying on this particular time.
All right, now trading female, let's talk about the DXY there for a second. You see the dollar trading, I think it's a 20-year high against the other currencies. It's a basket of 6 currencies is how they get that metric. What is that? What do you expect the DXY to do henceforth? If we do go parabolic and we break into new all-time highs for this DXY, I mean, are you expecting 10K, 12K Bitcoin? I mean, where do you see this heading in the near term?
Yeah, so I think we really need to think about where inflation's going in order to think about the price of the dollar. So inflation right now, obviously, we just saw recently that it's been increasing. It finally decreased a little bit. And we just saw also the market take a downturn last week. But I think it is going to continue to, inflation will continue to increase, unfortunately, in the near term with the hopes that eventually it will decrease in the future.
All right, nice. Now, Forrest, talking about inflation, I don't think we think it's stopping anytime soon. But in relation to Bitcoin, we still don't have this Bitcoin is an inflation hedge for most normal people. I think most Bitcoin maxis, they love to cheer that on and press that message, but we're not seeing it elsewhere. Is this something that we are going to see, or is it just impossible for Americans to see with a strong currency? Do we need a weak dollar for people to understand the value proposition of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to give you a biased opinion and an unpopular opinion. I'm not the biggest fan of Bitcoin as a store of value because I think there's going to be other cryptocurrencies that come in that are potentially better stores of value. Now, that's heresy for pro crypto people, and I am very pro crypto. But we're looking at like Ethereum right now, changing its tokenomics and adjusting its tokenomics to be slightly deflationary, reducing its supply by 90% in the near future. Just from a tokenomics and utility perspective, that makes Ethereum look more attractive to investors as a potential store of value. So basically what I'm saying here is Bitcoin's historically been the go-to store of value, but competition is catching up in the market. Other cryptocurrencies are out there that are able to adjust and change and pivot, whereas Bitcoin's been a little bit more static. Now, I know Bitcoin's oftentimes seen as, the more decentralized, the more secure, the immaculate conception. But a lot of people outside of the crypto, or for everyone that's not a hardcore Bitcoin crypto maxi, a lot of that stuff doesn't matter. There's just certain thresholds where people feel comfortable. Is it centralized enough? What does its supply tokenomics look like? In the case of Ethereum, it's going to attract a lot of potential investors. Not only that, but we're also the age-old debate of energy usage and the environmental concerns that people, and I'm not saying those are justified or not, but when you compare, a lot of investors won't touch Bitcoin because of the environmental concerns. That's an advantage that Ethereum is going to have when it shifts to proof of stake, if it's successful, if the merge is successful. So I'm going to give you the opinion of, no, I don't think that in the long term, Bitcoin's going to take over as a very popular store of value. I know that's very unpopular, but that's I'm just giving it to you straight. I think there's competition elsewhere in the market that may take that store of value use case and run with it.
BJ, change his name to Roger Ver. Okay. All right, let's move on. Let's talk a little XLM, Zcash, and Horizon. Grayscale came out, and there's some detectives, some sleuths, some blockchain detectives, if you will. They found some interesting data that they had on their website. Now, Grayscale, they do have a Zcash trust, Horizon Trust, XLM Trust, but then they had on their website, I want to make sure I get this, SEC staff has not provided any guidance as to the security status of Zcash, of Horizon, of XLM. So they had that on their websites. And this was in the June 28th filing. So they had these in their filings. Then when they did more filings on August 16th, they had removed, SEC staff has not provided any guidance on the security status of those three coins. So they went from saying SEC has not said anything about these three coins to then saying, no, they have given us a memorandum regarding the status under the federal securities laws from its external securities lawyers. Ox, he actually did change his name there. Ox, are we looking too much into this? Is this a bombshell that's being underreported right now? Has the SEC been giving out secret information on whether or not Zcash, XLM, and Horizon are securities? And what does this say for the crypto market as a whole? Is there some moves happening in the background that no one really knows right now?
Yeah, look, I'm not. I want to quote Elon Musk here. Like, I don't respect the SEC. Look, I think we need to see how the dust settles in the XRP case first. I think the SEC needs to come out with some. And I know we do have the Howey test, and we do have some strict definitions, but until we actually get real conclusions on and rulings on specific cryptocurrencies as to whether or not they're securities, I'm not too concerned with like dumping out of fear. Cryptocurrencies where they say there may be some concern over them being securities. Until we actually see the SEC ruling, against XRP, saying XRP is 100% a security, and that actually goes through, then once we see that progress and they start targeting other cryptocurrencies, I'm a little bit more concerned. I'd want to protect my bags. And if we see the SEC really have success with their vendetta against crypto, then certainly. But I'm not going to get fudded out by rumors about the SEC's opinions on certain cryptocurrencies as securities.
No, I want you to go open a turbo long on one of those 3 coins. Tell me which one. No, trading female on that note, and I kind of kid, of course, but what are your thoughts on those 3 coins? Is there any of those that stand out to you? And, what's your kind of take on, this possible background SEC saying they are securities? Possible, alleged.
Yeah. So I think first off, it's a bigger issue on what is classified as a security. So I think, as you guys were just saying, like eventually the SEC will get more involved in crypto and specifically regulatory around crypto. And I think that we need to be ready for it. When looking at these tokens and how much of the actual amount that it has for Grayscale, I mean, it's 40 million of their $18.7 billion assets managed under Grayscale. So there's definitely some gaps today between the classifications of these securities, and hopefully will become more clear in terms of the altcoin securities. But I think if they're going to argue that Horizon, that XLM, that they are all securities, they could also argue that Bitcoin is a security. So I think the SEC won't want to argue this. So they will find some distinctions to really draw between those 3.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We're not trying to make like there's too much influence here. It's like she said, 40 million of their 18 billion. At its peak, that was 60 billion. So not a large percentage of their portfolio. Now, Gareth, I want to talk to you more about just the Grayscale business as a whole. We hear about this Grayscale discount, and then people don't really understand why that's a bad thing. I know there's a lot of traders. I'm not going to name names. They're staying on the sidelines as long as this discount is still around, because their theory is Wall Street's got some of the best investors in the world, and if they're not investing with a discount, why would I invest in Bitcoin? So can you just unpack that a little bit and maybe explain, what is a Grayscale Bitcoin discount?
So what they're referring to there is an ETN, which is an equity traded entity, essentially. And it's almost like an ETF, but it's not an ETF. And it basically tracks Bitcoin's price movement, but I don't believe it has to hold underlying Bitcoin to justify that. So it's almost like, imagine it's just basically going up and down with Bitcoin. I think one of the reasons why it's discounted is because it doesn't necessarily have to hold that Bitcoin on its balance sheet. So basically, it's not like when you're investing in it, you're getting a percentage of what they hold in terms of Bitcoin. It's just you're getting the tracking movement. I think also, like you're saying, I think it's partly true that the big money right now is considered to think that Bitcoin still has a little bit more downside. I think the regulation is just this huge overhang. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if that puts in, you might see this regulation hit and a bottom flush occur, and that might be the bottom. And in the stock market, one of the things we always look for is like the market was always known to hate uncertainty. Even if it's bad, even if it's a negative result, just the fact that the market and investors know it, at least they can trade and make proper decisions off of whatever the regulation is. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see regulation like we hear about securities, maybe Ripple is a security. But the question is will the SEC say, okay, but because you're crypto related, we're going to impose these other kind of maybe different regulations that is actually not that bad. And that's the way I see this going, actually. And sorry to get off topic, but I'm looking at that as yes, they've said it's going to be securities, except for Bitcoin, essentially. But then what are the rules? And I think that's going to be the key. And I think it's going to be very scary. It's very scary right now. It's keeping mega investors away from the crypto sector because no one can invest someone else's money. Think about a hedge fund who has a fiduciary responsibility to safeguard capital for investors. Pension funds with retirees' money. I mean, they can't be going into crypto without regulations and knowing the rules. But if you get that regulation, does it open the floodgates after an initial panic that actually can create this up move? So I'm in that camp. I think that Grayscale, again, is discounted for a few different reasons. But I think, again, once that regulation becomes clear, you see this bottom in Bitcoin, and finally that bear market can be over.
Okay, yeah, good points there. And I'm glad you unpacked a little bit of that, and I do agree. I think once a little clarity hits the markets, and then people, I think the initial reaction, kind of like you said, it's going to be panic in the streets. Any regulation must be bad regulation, but I agree. I think in the long run, that is going to be what takes crypto to the next level because, like you said, mega wealthy investors, they are staying on the sidelines as long as there's no clarity, because it's one thing to lose a couple ETH like I did with Celsius, but when you have, $1 trillion in assets under management, you're not going to want to put any kind of real allocation into something that might just disappear overnight. All right, well, let's talk about Netdragon's CEO. It is AI. There you can see one of the first Genesis, first rug pull, maybe even. No, that's a little Tamagotchi there. Hit that like button. One, if you're watching, just hit the like button. It doesn't cost anything. But if you had a Tamagotchi, I want you to hit that like button 3 times, and then that should still give us a net gain there. But all right, let's. Netdragon is a metaverse company. That's why we're talking about it. And they just announced the appointment. We don't know how real this is, of course, of a AI CEO robot. This is the picture from the article. I don't think this is. I don't think this is going to be the people's boss. That looks more like I would say what bosses around the Terminator or the T-1000, however. But no, that's Miss Tang Yu. It is the AI-powered virtual assistant, and it is using AI as a management strategy and trying to push this company into a metaverse organization. And it goes on to say, this is the company spokesman said, Tang Yu, I almost have a problem just even saying that. The AI robot will also serve as a real-time data hub and analytical tool to support rational decision-making in daily operations, as well as enable a more effective risk management system. Now, Gareth, we know about AI. It's AI trading bots, and, we have a DALL-E, and it's making, cool pictures. You type in Mario Kart if, he was in Doom or something, they'll give you something kind of cool. Is this, how far away are we from this? Because I don't think we think this is, I got fired by the AI. I guess I got to go to the unemployment line. I don't think anything like that is happening at this moment, but how far away are we from something like that happening, in your opinion? Might be muted there.
Sorry.
It was the AI. It was the AI, I think.
Yeah, that was. They're getting on me already, but I don't think that we're near the CEO being an AI, but I do think that you're getting closer and closer to employee evaluations being handled by AI, right? So as you're doing work, I'm sure there's all these algorithms that are analyzing everything you do, or there can be at least. And I think that's kind of scary, frankly. I mean, to think that we always were concerned about, like, is there someone watching me, right? We don't want Big Brother always watching. Well, guess what? Every time you click the mouse or every time you click a button, is someone analyzing every single thing you do, or is AI analyzing it? And I think that's where we are headed. And I think that one of the next big crises, and this is still years away, exactly. One of the next big crises years away is going to be when there's a lot of unemployment due to these bigger companies switching over to these AIs and robots building everything. I mean, when everything can just be programmed and done via robot, where do people get the jobs? Yeah, I mean, there's jobs to build and program, but once they're programmed, thousands and thousands of jobs, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of jobs can be lost to this AI type of stuff. So it should be something that we're paying attention to, and it is the future.
All right, now trading female. I want to ask about what is this going to actually end up being like? Do you see this being a little bit of a easier boss to have, an AI boss, or would it be a more difficult boss to have, depending on some of the human beings you surround yourself with? But generally speaking, what would you rather have, an AI boss or a human boss, and why?
I think this was just a tactic to get some press. I think they are still going to need a human boss. But I disagree with the last point. I actually think there's going to be more jobs eventually created by utilizing AI. And sorry, I just want to go back to that. But I think if a job can be done by AI, we should let it be done by AI. AI reduces repetitive work and enhances work efficiency. And AI will, however, create different types of jobs that require new skill sets. But I don't think AI is going to replace like human judgment. I think we're going to have more positions for engineers, robotics engineers, data scientists, like AI maintenance. But I think when you think back to the past, like horses were replaced by cars. So horse drivers were then replaced by car drivers, but the same goes for the future and utilizing AI. But I don't think necessarily AI is going to take all the different jobs. I'm just going to think it's going to be a different skill set that we all have to learn.
Yeah, we're going to have to read binary. It's a whole new skill set we're going to have to learn. Now, Forrest, I can't read this email. Forrest, what's the in-game situation with, say, bonuses? Because there's going to be some. You got an AI CEO, It's probably some sweet upper management, mid-management bonuses going to go around. Could you foresee an issue where, say, the data analytics team, the data input team, their bonuses are 300% higher than last year's, while the other departments are, get a net negative? Is there going to be an issue with who feeds the CEO information? Because they're not walking around the office here. I'm guessing there's going to be heavily reliant on inputs.
Yeah, exactly. So if you know anything about AI and machine learning, it's only as good as the data that you feed into it, because it has to optimize off of that data, and then it's got to optimize for different variables, right? You can optimize it and tell the AI, hey, make the decisions that make this company the most money. But then you have to take into account, like, how are you going to code in trade-offs, right? Because if you optimize for the absolute most amount of money, what about sustainability? What about ethics, right? It could make some really unethical decisions in order to maximize profits, right? What about long-term sustainability of the company versus short-term profits? It could, you get the variables a little bit wrong and you optimize for short-term profits. It could be making decisions that are good for short-term profits, but very, very bad for profits and sustainability of the company 5 to 10 years down the road. So I think I agree with trading female. I think that we're always gonna have human inputs. Ultimately, like I said, AI and machine learning is only as good as the data that you give it. And right now, I think we're in a position where, yes, in terms of like bulk data processing power, yeah, AI is very powerful. But as humans, we just have more data and far more inputs in our environment that we can take into account to make those decisions. So yeah, I don't know, maybe there will be some disagreements when it comes to bonuses down the road, but look, I mean, data teams are important. They deserve bonuses too. But I don't think we're going to get to a point where we have, AI CEOs that are scooping up all the bonuses.
Yeah, I think that's a good point when you brought up, hey, I'm putting in how to make the company the most money, and then it reads back to me, start selling crack cocaine. What? Hey, I don't want to do that just because I live in Atlanta. That's messed up. Quick shout out, Stanford Mine Company. Always love when you're in the chats. Shout out NFT Alpha. Got in on the Ada Fight Club, pulled some top 1,000 rarities. So it's always good when people get some NFT wins, even during this NFT bearish winter. There's still people out there. They're making gains. They're getting that alpha. Check out NFT Alpha if you haven't already. But I think that's all we got time for, is a little bit of shorter episode today. The Crow, he was flying around. I guess there was a mishap on the set. Something happened with the cap. I don't know what happened, but
he's getting a haircut.
He's flying around somewhere. But it looks like Gareth won it. Almost taken down by Forrest, who I almost thought was an AI during that third segment. But Gareth, you won narrowly. Feel free. Take it away.
All right. So the first thing I'll say is ponder this one. How would you kiss up to your AI boss? I think that's one of those things that we'll have to figure out. Next, I would just say thank you guys. Everyone on this panel is awesome, and follow them on Twitter and follow them on all their socials. DZ, you always do a class job here. I'm always amazed at your quick-wittedness on here, and everyone that helps produce the show there. And lastly, people get educated, learn how to read charts. It is enlightening. It changes your financial future. Learn how to read. There's so much in a chart that you can tell about what the probabilities of the next move are. So do that and be better off for it.
And if you want to please your AI boss, just speak like Vitalik. It'll be pleasing to the AI ear. And that is all we have time for today. Until next time, BitSquad. DZ out. Make sure you follow all the channels here. And Frank is going live in about 20 minutes. Check it out.
Yay, Frank.